Hey, we're so glad to have you today. Did your team win last night? We got Clemson fans here just sleeping a little bit. Any Bulldogs, any Georgia fans need a hug? Anybody need a hug? So I don't know why I just got to do that, but we are, really glad to have you. And if you're a first-time guest with us, let me welcome you. My name's Nate. It's an honor to serve as one of the pastors here. And if you're watching online for the first time, welcome as well. However you're tuning in, we're glad to have you. And I want to just kind of start off before we get into the message today. I don't know if you realize this or not, but we are 2 weekends away from the start of Christmas at LifePointe. Like it is here, it is right around the corner. If you've never experienced a Christmas at LifePointe, it is personally one of my favorite experiences that we do, a lot like Easter. We see dozens and dozens of people give their life to the Lord every single year that we do Christmas. So I want to help prepare you. You'll notice right here, we're gonna be offering 5 identical services this year. So we're gonna start on Sunday, December the 22nd. Notice the difference of the times, all right? We're gonna do a 9, an 11, and a 5. And then we're gonna skip Monday, come back on Christmas Eve, and we're gonna do a 3 and a 5. And I wanna really help you to start thinking about how to help us make this the best Christmas we've ever had. And one of the ways that you can do that is to begin to think about who can you bring with you. You know, Christmas is one of those times a year where people are looking to go to church. They really are. Like, you could fumble the invitation. You could stutter, and they're gonna go, I think you're trying to invite me to church. You're kind of weird, but I'll come. Like they are looking to come if you'll just simply make the ask. And so what we're gonna do today, on your way out, is we're gonna give you Christmas at LifePointe invite ornaments or coasters or Frisbees, whatever you wanna do with this thing. It's just a resource we're gonna put in your hand. You can punch a little hole in it, bake some goods, like the good stuff with the real butter and the real sugar, no vegan treats. Like, that's not LifePointe. Put the other church on that. But our church, we give, all the good stuff, and you can maybe use it as an ornament, put it in your break room, at school, pass them out, whatever. It's just a way for you to begin to think missional around Christmas. And then here's what I would encourage you to do. I would choose the service time based off of when my friend can come. Right? So instead of me just looking at this going, oh, this is what's best for me, what if you thought differently? And you said, hey, would you come sit with me at LifePointe? I'm not just gonna invite you, but would you come sit with me? Oh, the 5 o'clock on Sunday night's your best? Sure, I'll come. If you do that, I believe we're gonna see God really move in people's lives. Now, the second way you can partner with us is to serve. And I'm really speaking to those that are not on a serve team. That maybe this is an opportunity where a one-off, if you will, you can be a part of a serve team that night. And you say, you know, maybe my schedule doesn't allow me to serve regularly on a Sunday, but man, on Christmas, like, I wanna pour back into the place that pours into me every week. And so we got some things that you can do. You can park cars, you can hold a door, you can greet people, you can clean toilets, you can help set stuff out. It really is a great opportunity. Even if it's just a one-off, you're not signing up for a team. I promise you, we'll just let you do one, but maybe you serve one of these and you sit one of these as well. So if you want to serve on Christmas, there's a Connect card in your seat back. You can grab that, and you could write Christmas Serve on it. Christmas Serve, of course, give us your contact info, and that'll let us know, you know what, I want to serve one of those 5 services at Christmas, and we think this is going to be a great time. So y'all excited about that? Couple weeks? Yeah, it's going to be good. Hope you're ready. But today's a big day for our church. And let me kind of explain this if you're a first-time guest walking in. In a minute, we are going to get ready to give as a church. And I love this. Even if you are a first-time guest with us, of course, there's no pressure for you to participate. But we've been really building towards this weekend, December the 8th, as we get ready to make a 1-year financial commitment to what we are calling Make It Impossible and give our Kickstart gift towards that commitment. And we really believe that this has been a season of anticipation and preparation for our church. We believe that God is just at the beginning of what he really wants to do in and through us. And so, you know, next year we're, Lord willing, going to be building phase 2 of this building, launching LifePointe Preschool. And the reason we're doing it, I just feel like I can't say it enough, is because we want to make it impossible for people to not know Jesus. That is our heart. That is our goal. And so today, in a few moments, we're gonna give, and we're gonna move around the room to be able to do that. So I was thinking about this, like, how do I prepare our hearts for this act of worship through giving, really stepping out in faith that we're about to do? And I felt like the Lord impressed on my heart to just take a few moments and teach around this subject, beyond you. Beyond you. Because I think that that's the invitation today, to live and do something that's gonna outlive us. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna treat you for a minute like you're on my LifePointe staff. Can I do that? Except for I'm not gonna pay you, so there's no paycheck. Coming in the mail? Okay. Well, here's one of the things that I love about doing ministry is I love to preach, of course. I love sharing the story of Jesus every week. But the other thing that I love to do is I love teaching leadership to our staff. And I don't say that because I'm some leadership guru and I've got it all figured out. Honestly, I'm hungry, I'm a student, and I just believe at the core that every single person is a leader. That at its purest, John Maxwell said it, leadership is influence. Anybody who's influenced anybody, you are a leader. And think about that. That's what you're doing, whether you're raising them babies at home or you work a job or you're a student in school, that there are people in your life that you have the ability to influence, therefore, you're a leader. And I think that there's two kinds of leaders. I think there's a beyond you leader, and then I think there's a for you leader. Now, a for you leader is all about you. Me, I'm the hero of the story. I'm the one that gets all the credit. And I would say that if that's been your leadership mentality where you got to get all the glory and all the credit, whatever it is you're building will die with you. I think there's a better way of leading, and it's this concept, beyond you. So what we've been teaching the staff all year is this right here, that we've been creating principles around what does it mean to be a beyond you leader. And what we've said is a beyond you leader empowers those around you and behind you to build what's in front of you. I love the dynamic of that. Like as a beyond you leader, I have to empower people. What does that mean? It means that I can't do this by myself. This is so big that I can't get all the credit. So I got to develop those around me. I got to be raising up the next generation, ultimately to what? Build what's in front of me. This is a really, I think, high way of living your life because you're building something that will live beyond your leadership life. And then it hit me. I thought, man, what if every Jesus follower had that mission in life? Not just leadership, but like as a Jesus follower, I want to live a life that outlives my life. And the power today is that what I do with this life actually has the ability to live beyond me. But the only way that we're going to become beyond you type of people and a beyond you church is if we start living from the perspective of eternity and not just what's temporary. That I have to be driven by eternity. I understand that you've got bills to pay and you got the physical body and there's things going on in your life and that's natural, but I think we got to get above that. We got to be able to live beyond ourselves, which I know is kind of a heavy subject today because it makes us come face to face with this word right here, eternity. I know you're like, come on, man, it's 12:17 on a Sunday after we won the ACC championship. Like, really? Like, you're going to make me come face to face with this concept? And I get it. You know, I think eternity for a lot of us is a lot like what happened to me when I was 6 years old, when I came to terms with Santa Claus. And let me explain this. If you got a kid in here, don't worry. I'm not going to reveal anything that you want me to reveal, although Discovery Point is always a great place for your child to be. But I'll never forget, it was 1989, 1988. I was like 5, 6 years old. And that year, I had to have this gift. If you were around in that era, you know that the Nintendo just came out with the best video game ever, Super Techno Bowl. Come on, how many of y'all had Super Techno Bowl? There we go. Forget this John Madden stuff and whatever, high graphics and, you know, kids these days, right? But like I had to have Super Techno Bowl. And so I remember I got my mom and my dad and my older brother. I'm like, we got to sit on Santa's lap. He's got to know. I can't just write him a letter this year. I got to tell him that I got to have Super Techno Bowl. So we go to the mall. You know how it is. You wait in line. You finally get your opportunity. I sat on his lap. I'm like, Santa, I don't know if you know this or not. There's this new game out. It's called Super Techno Bowl. I got to have it. He's like, what are you talking about? I make games. That's what I do. So after I was done, me and my brother, we walk around the mall for, I don't know, let's just say an hour, right before we get ready to leave, okay? Right before we get ready to leave, my dad looks at us, boys, my brother, and he says, boys, we're gonna use the bathroom before we get on the road. So we go into the mall food court public restroom. It's an important detail. And when I walked into that bathroom, what happened next, I wasn't ready for. For we walked in and we heard the toilet flush in the stall, the door opens and out walks Santa Claus. I'm thinking to myself, no, you gotta be kidding. Like, nothing will ruin the magic of Christmas more than coming to terms with the fact that Santa goes to the bathroom. Right? I'm like, you're magical. You slide down chimneys, you fly on reindeers, you eat cookies. Like, you're the guy. And here I am face to face, right, with Santa. He looks at me and I look at him and he washed his hands. This is true, put his white gloves on and walked right out the bathroom. And here's the thing, like, I think I knew in my 6-year-old self that Santa uses the bathroom. I mean, he's human, right? I just wasn't ready to come with the reality of his humanity. Well, I didn't want to acknowledge this truth. And I think that that's a lot, follow me, like eternity. It's like I know it's real. Like I get it, people die. And if you're a Jesus follower, you would say that life goes beyond this realm. If you're not a Jesus follower, I would say that you still wonder heavily around life and death and what does really happen when we take our last breath. Do we really just go back into the dust of the ground? And if you're a Jesus follower, you would say, eternity, it's this like concept that I believe in, but I don't know if I really want to see it face to face. I mean, forever? Forever, ever? Forever, ever? Okay, we got some cultural references there. And then what's it gonna be like? I mean, what's heaven gonna be like? Is it gonna be like a Huggies commercial? We're all gonna turn into babies wearing diapers floating on clouds? And then I hear there's like a lot of singing in heaven. I'll be honest with you, I don't really like to sing. I mean, the concept of never-ending singing seems more like the other place than it does heaven. And don't even get me started on the other place. I mean, is that real? Like, is hell an actual place where God allows people to live in torment? I don't know if I wanna deal with eternity. I mean, I know it's real. I know heaven is real. I know hell is real, but I don't really know if I'm ready to see it in the bathroom, if you will. And I think that this is important, though, because this will dictate how we live our lives. I mean, that those of us that, we want to live beyond ourselves, understand that eternity is real and it's something we don't fear, but it's something that we anticipate. And there is a lot of mystery around eternity. And I don't want to focus on the mystery side of it. I want to focus for a brief moment on the certainty. What do we know? One of the things we know in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, the Apostle Paul is going to show us here that our lives, did you know, have the ability to live beyond. That like what you do with your time, your opportunity, your breath, your finances, your love, like it actually has the ability, legacy, to live beyond yourself. Paul he says it like this, 2 Corinthians chapter 5. I'm going to show it to you so you can see this in verse 10. Paul says, for we must all, everyone shout all. We must all, we're all in on this, appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. Now, I want to just take a minute. I want to teach a little bit of doctrine for you, because I think it's so important that we have accurate teaching when it comes to the concept of eternity. There are two judgment seats that are described in the Bible. The judgment seat of Christ here in 2 Corinthians is not to be mistaken with the great white judgment throne in Revelation. In Revelation, John, the disciple, gets this vision of what heaven and eternity is going to look like. And we see for the first time what's called the great white judgment throne. That is a judgment of salvation, meaning the question that you'll be asked that day is simple. What did you do with Jesus? That's the question. What did you do with Jesus? And if your answer is, man, I placed my faith in the finished work of Christ, I believe that he was the Son of God sent to this earth to do what I couldn't do for myself, to do what religion couldn't do for me. He did it on the cross. His blood was the perfect sacrifice that atoned, covered all of my sins. And on the third day, he resurrected from the grave, meaning he is the only authority figure that actually can say who has life and who has death. I followed, trusted Jesus. Then the beauty of this, the promise in Revelation, is that your name is forever written in the book of life. And that's powerful. And so now when you get to the judgment, the great white judgment throne, your name is hidden in the book of life, not because of anything that you've done, but because ultimately of what Christ has done for you. That's a great place to say amen right here if you know that's true. Yeah, it's not me, it's not my efforts, it's because of Jesus. What did you do what did you do with Jesus? Now, this is the part where I don't know if a lot of believers realize that we too will stand in front of a judgment throne. And this is what Paul's describing here in 2 Corinthians 5:10. Remember, he's writing this to a group of churches, a group of believers. And he's saying that we will all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. Now, this judgment is not a grace judgment. This is a works. Now, lean in, because I don't want you to miss this. We do not believe that your works is a result, that your salvation is a result of your works. No, we are saved by grace through faith, period. But we do believe that your works will be a result of your salvation. Are you with me? Meaning that when I lean in on Jesus and I serve Jesus and I love Jesus, the natural byproduct is I'm going to produce fruit, right? I'm going to want to serve him. I'm going to love him. I'm going to want to honor him. And Paul says that there will be a day where we'll stand in front of the judgment seat of Christ. And here's the question on that day. Believer, I want to prepare you for the test. It's one question. It's this. What did you do with what God gave you? That's the question. What did you do with what God gave you. Matter of fact, this is so important that Jesus in his ministry talked about this. Matthew chapter 16, verse 27, Jesus said it like this. He said, for the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward. Everyone shout reward. Yeah, he will reward each person according to what they've done. Now, this is so amazing because the word reward in the original Greek language is the word apodidomai, and it literally means to pay back. So follow this. When you get as a believer and you stand in front of God, you're not at the great white judgment because of Jesus. Now you're at the judgment seat of Christ. What did you do with what I gave you? And God will reward you. He will pay you back for all the good that you've done. Like, this is great news because I thought that for me, like, I was gonna have to, go in this like IMAX movie screen room, and it was gonna be like Jesus, me, and my mom and dad behind me. And I was gonna have to watch like every sin I've ever committed on this big IMAX movie screen and every negative, impure thought I've ever had. And then at the very end, after God beats me up a lot, he's gonna like crack the door into heaven. He's gonna like let me slide in. But that, and some of you are like, yeah, I actually thought that too. But that is not the Bible. That is not true. No, that day for a believer, it's a reward ceremony. It's literally God, you standing in front of God. He's like, oh man, I'm so glad you're here. You're my son, you're my daughter. I've been waiting for you. I don't know, maybe he'll get all the angels together and he's gonna say, now I'm gonna pay you back for all the good that you've done, the way you served, the way you gave, the way you loved, the way you shared your faith with others. Oh, that's not a day to fear, that's a day to celebrate. It's a reward ceremony. Now, this isn't Bible, this is Nate, but it makes me wonder, what will be the reward? And I'll be honest with you, I don't think, me searching scripture, I don't think that God's gonna give me like this big old crown of jewels with diamonds, and I'm gonna be like dripping and go walking into heaven. I don't think it's gonna be like this big mansion, that I'm gonna have a bigger mansion because of look at what I did. I mean, really, come on. In the sight of Jesus, none of that's gonna matter. I think the reward is for the very first time, Jesus is gonna peel back the curtain and he's gonna allow me to see into heaven all the people that are in heaven because of how I lived my life. That the greatest reward is people. And in this moment, I'm gonna have this reality of, oh my God, you mean to tell me that when I forgave that person, it impacted their life so much that they forgave that other person that hurt them, and then they gave their life to Christ, because they gave their life to Christ and modeled that in their home. Their kids got saved, and one of their kids became a missionary and led thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to Christ, and it all came back to because I forgave this person? You mean to tell me on December the 8th, when I gave financially over 2020, that the expansion allowed someone else to sit in a seat, and that person met Christ for the very first time, and they went into their marketplace business and led their coworkers to Jesus, who then in turn led more tens and hundreds of thousands of people to Christ, all because I gave something on December the 28th? Do you see this? All December the 8th, all because what? I did something so small with how I lived my life. Oh, I think the greatest reward on that day is God will peel back the curtain and you'll see just of an impact that you were able to make. And to me, that's what we're about to do. We're about to act with our generosity in this moment to say, Lord, I want my life to outlive my life. And you know what's really neat is a couple weeks ago, I was able to sit down with 3 families who gave, matter of fact, participated in this moment 3 years ago through an initiative that we did called Step In. And it was Step In that allowed us to build this, buy this land, build this building. And I was able to pull them into a room and ask them some questions about how the power of generosity has changed their life. And so I think it's really important before we give for you to watch this video. Check this out. Well, hey everybody, how are you? Good, man. Well, listen, it's such an honor to be with you guys today, and I'm really looking forward to what you're going to share a little bit about your journey of generosity. And what I love about this group right here is you really represent the over 200 families that contributed 3 years ago to an initiative that we did called Step In. And you know this, Step In is the generosity initiative that allowed us to buy this land, build this building, truly leave a legacy that's gonna outlive us. And so, Landon, I wanna start with you. This is what's really neat about you, Landon. A lot of people don't know this, but you were the actual person to physically give the first financial gift to Step In. Tell us a little bit about that. How old were you and why did you do this?
Well, It was about maybe 3 years ago. I was around 10 or 11, and you were over at our place talking with my parents about the Step In initiative and just how we were planning on getting our own building. Yeah. And it really just called to me to give some of my birthday money to the cause, because I was really excited for LifePointe. We've been going for a few years, and I was just ready to be all in.
So John and Lisa, you guys have been friends of ours for a long time, and you guys have been a part of LifePointe for a while. How long have you guys been coming to LifePointe?
8 years.
8 years. When we started Step In and we were kind of kicking this initiative off, I know there's a lot going on in your personal life. You just had a son, figuring how to, be a parent to this new infant baby, plus other personal things. Do you guys mind sharing a little bit about what was going on when we were, launching into this big faith initiative?
I felt like I was kind of at a crossroads. Like I wasn't really sure what was next and how to deal with our new life and our new normal. And we had a lot of kind of tough conversations regarding Step In and if we were going to give and how much we were going to give. And to be quite honest, I struggled a lot with it. We were kind of struggling financially at the time with me staying home with Owen, and my career kind of up in the air. And I was like, I wasn't sure if that was what we should be doing.
I came to know Christ in a church a lot like LifePointe. And for me, the difference between knowing Jesus and not knowing Jesus is literally a life and death decision. And so the fact that you can give towards something that can, in even the smallest way, make an effect with that and make a difference, then it's a no-brainer.
It's probably no secret as people are visually watching this video, how we intentionally have all different age groups represented here. I love that here we have a 14-year-old. We have, mid-30s, which is our largest demographic at LifePointe. And then we have Kip and Terry. We have our retired young here. Nobody that I know has a greater work ethic and does more in their retirement than you two. And I love what you guys get to represent, because to me this is really about legacy. Beyond yourselves, your kids, your grandkids. And so thanks for being a part of this conversation, and thanks for your generosity to give towards this. So I'm really curious for you guys, a couple years ago as we were getting ready to launch into this, what was your why? What was your why behind saying, you know what, we want to be a part of this?
It's like you say, Nate, it's about the legacy. It's about watching our two granddaughters run in the door on Sunday and be excited. And it's exciting, Nate, that other people get to be a part of that excitement. We all felt that first blush of excitement. Yes. Now other people are going to feel that same excitement that we've been able to feel.
And I think that excitement is going to be compounded now, because what we saw back 3 years ago, we saw roughly 200 families join in, and now we look around at the growth in the church of folks your age. There's also a large growth in our age and your age as well. And it's like, this is a no-brainer. We've got to do it. And this time around, there's going to be more people to contribute. So I think we're on the edge of greatness here.
Yeah.
So what I think is really incredible just hearing your stories, I think what everyone's saying just in different ways is how much life change we've seen. Just countless stories. And the reality is it's even stories that are happening that we don't even know about. We only get to hear maybe one or two, or maybe somebody in your life group. But the reality is God's just doing things in people's lives that's incredible at our church. And so I have a surprise for you. I want you to hear personally 2 stories tonight of life change that God has been doing in the life of people since we moved into this building. And the first one is a high school senior named Michaela. So let's welcome Michaela in today.
So, my name is Mac, and I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of my story. So my story kind of dates back to the beginning of my freshman year of high school. I had a really hard time figuring out who I was, going into high school. So I got into a group of bad people, not doing things that I wasn't proud of. But I had met a friend here who went to LifePointe. It was a 9 a.m. service, which was awful because I did not like getting up that early. But we came. And it was in the middle of the mixtape series, which was nothing to do with what I was going through. But I remember at the end of church just absolutely bawling my eyes out. And so I started getting into serving here, and that was amazing. I've been serving in the middle school and the nursery lately. And then I decided I wanted to join a life group with a lot of the leaders and friends that I had made in high school and middle school. And then I was like, well, might as well get baptized, because I hadn't been baptized yet. And the week before my baptism, I had been having issues with left side of my body going weak and a lot of headaches and things like that. So we decided to go see a doctor. And he thought nothing of it. He thought it was just going to be reverse migraines or something, but he wanted to do an MRI just to be sure. And so we got into the MRI machine, and I could just tell something was going to be wrong. You know, I just sat there and I started crying in the machine, and they took me out. And I remember the guy telling my mom, you're going to see something on the scan, and it's not pretty. And so I was diagnosed with a grade 5 AVM and the right motor cortex. It's my entire motor cortex, and they have no idea how I move the left side of my body at all. They don't even know how I talk. There is absolutely no treatment for it right now because it is so large, it's literally a fourth of my brain. And I actually just left my surgeon's office a week ago, and he still says the same thing, unfortunately. But thankfully, because of being in the place that I am with the faith and everything else, I still got baptized because I had the group of people around me from my life group, and it was just incredible. It was the Tuesday before my baptism. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but they sat me and 2 other people in the middle of a prayer circle, and we prayed for like 20 minutes. And it was the best feeling ever, and I knew that I still need to be baptized because even though this was happening, there was a reason for it. And to this day, I've told my testimony numerous amounts of times, and I've reached so many people, and it's been incredible. And that's because of people like you who give to this church and allow things like this to happen.
We have a pretty unique story. December 12th of last year, 2018, my wife let me know that she was done after 10 years, and just was at the lowest point in my life. And I looked online, I didn't have anywhere to go, and found LifePointe. And I came knowing it wasn't going to work. I came with a lot of prejudice in my head and things from my previous experiences in churches. I remember watching the video and the introduction video before the services start, and Ridge said, "You belong with us before you believe like us." And that really, I had built up so many walls through trials and tribulations in life that I was like, religion will never work for me. And then when he said that, it threw me off guard a little bit. And then a lot of the things that Pastor Nate talked about and preached to, of hurt people, and you don't fall out of love, you step out of love. As hard as it was, everything he was saying is what I needed to hear at that point in my life. I would come and I would sit in the furthest isolated corner I could find in the darkest part of the church, and I would come in, I'd literally cross my arms and be like, "Not today, God, not today, LifePointe, not today." And by the time I would leave, I'm a pretty private person, but I would leave shaking hands, telling everybody have a good week. I would leave and go get lunch and tell people to have a blessed day.
And do you still sit in the darkest part of the auditorium?
No, now I'm usually greeting people or, interacting. We've made a lot of people that I wouldn't even call friends, I would say they're family here at LifePointe, from our life group to people that I serve with here. Without LifePointe, I don't know where I would be right now. It's made me a better person, a better friend. I think it's made me a better father. So my son and I are closer than we ever were, and have a good relationship. I struggled with depression, anxiety, PTSD, went to the VA and went to all kinds of places and tried all my kind of medicine, and they couldn't help me. And, my life has changed dramatically. And I just wanted a chance to let you know how much we appreciate it.
Well, as we get ready to give today, it's our end of year giving date, and we're getting ready to make it impossible for people to not know Jesus and get ready for this next season of life and ministry. So I want to give you the final word before we get ready to do that. And I thought it would be really great for you to challenge your sort of age representative here. So Lana, let's start with you. You know, you're 14, you're that teenager, early 20s. What would you challenge people with?
Just no matter how small the gift, as you say, it's not about equal giving, equal sacrifice.
Yeah.
Give what you can and be proud of that.
Yeah, it's great.
I think just to not be afraid to take a leap of faith. Life is going to happen regardless, and I think it's just important to trust that God will take whatever you can give and He'll do immeasurably more than you could ever even imagine.
For years and years, I've always said, you cannot row a boat with one foot on shore.
Yeah.
You either have to be in that boat or you're on the shore. And I don't even look at it as a sacrifice. I look at it as an opportunity to be a part of something you can be proud of.
Isn't it crazy to think that we get to be a part of that? This is the third time I've seen this. I'll be honest with you, that never gets old. And to think in some small way that God uses me, that translates into that. And honestly, church, I wish I could bring every single one of you who faithfully give and serve at this church and put you at a table and literally let dozens and dozens of people just roll in and tell you about their marriage being saved and their life being changed and addictions being broken and Jesus healing broken heart. I wish I could do that. But I just want you to know that even when you don't think maybe your generosity is making a difference, look no further than what you're seeing today. And I think that this is what it's all about. And this is what it looks like to live beyond ourselves. And I think it's appropriate before we give to end where we started. You know, this whole series was based off of what Jesus said in Matthew 28, verse 18. It's often what's known as the Great Commission because it's the final thing that he would tell his disciples before he would ascend up into heaven. He says, this, guys, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. He says, therefore go, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. When I was reading this not too long ago, I heard this story about the late Sammy Davis Jr. And if you're familiar with Sammy Davis Jr., you know that he's arguably one of the greatest dancers and talent of our generation, often known for his great swag, his open bow tie, and the dude put moves that nobody was doing at that time, and a phenomenal entertainer. And what was really interesting is I was reading about this in 1989. Sammy Davis Jr. had a tribute to his life because at this point he was living, but he was fighting terminal cancer. And so this was a live, televised. Eddie Murphy was the host. And that night, as they're honoring Sammy, they called out to the stage a guy by the name of Gregory Hines. And Gregory Hines comes out. Well, come to find out, this was one of Sammy's mentees. Arguably, maybe Sammy's most prized dancer, if you will, the prodigy of Sammy's legacy. And so they play some music, and there's Gregory Hines dancing on stage for his mentor, Sammy. And it's choreographed so perfectly to where at the very end, Gregory Hines collapsed in Sammy Davis Jr.'s lap. And everybody's clapping. The place is going crazy. But then what happened next, nobody was expecting. For in that moment, Sammy Davis kind of waved off stage, and the person comes out and gives Sammy his dance shoes. And he puts on his own dance shoes and gets up. They play the music, and here's this moment of rareness where Sammy Davis Jr. is dancing with Gregory Hines, the mentor and the mentee. And at the very end of that, everybody's on their feet, clapping, everybody's crying because they knew that more than likely this would be the final time that Sammy Davis Jr. would dance. Well, not too long after that, Sammy passed away. And at the eulogy, one of the guest speakers was Gregory Hines. And Gregory Hines tells this story that I just had told you. And said he said, though, but what most people didn't realize is that wasn't the final time that Sammy would dance. See, just days before he passed away, I went to his house. Gregory Hines went to his house. And there he was in hospice care, in a bed, very calm. His family was around him, his loved ones, his nurses. And Gregory's like, I just did what I knew to do So I played some music, and right there in the living room, I just danced. What I didn't realize is that Sammy was aware of what was going on, and after I was done, Sammy actually mustered up the energy to sit up in his bed. The nurses are shocked. The family is like shocked about what's going on. And then he gets enough energy and he actually kicks his legs over the side of the bed and he stands up frail and weak, and he couldn't dance, but he moved his feet to the rhythm of the beat. And then at the very end, because he couldn't verbally talk anymore, he did this gesture to Gregory Hines, and he did this. And Gregory knew exactly what he meant, for he was saying, it's your turn. I'm passing it on to you now, Gregory. My time has come. I'm about to pass away, but you're my legacy. Carry on everything that I've taught you to the next generation. Go. And I'll tell you, church, man, when I read that, I got chills literally all up and down my body, because I thought that's Matthew 28. That's what Jesus is doing on the mountain that day before he ascends up into heaven, when he commissions his disciples to go. What Jesus is doing is this. It's your turn now. You followed me for 3 years. I've taught you how to pray. I've taught you how to heal. I've taught you how to love people. I've taught you how to represent me, the God of love. Go. All nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And I don't believe that that was for a specific group of people, only for one period of history. But I believe that that is what Jesus is doing over your life this morning, as he's looking at you going, it's your turn. It's your city. It's your turn. And that's what this moment is about. It's about us carrying the legacy on to the next generation. And so in a moment, we're going to give. And I believe we're going to speak today. And so let me explain kind of how this is going to work. You're going to notice in your seat back, there is a Make It Impossible commitment card. If you didn't come with one pre-filled out, you could grab one there or down in the seats in front of you as well. There's pins on these tables as well if you need that. And in a moment here, the band's going to come out and they're going to play a couple worship songs, because that's what this is. This is an act of worship. And so I encourage you to don't rush. There's no need to get up right away. There's a couple songs that you can participate through. And when you're ready, and I encourage you, if you're here with your spouse, would you pray together over this? Would you pray for more life change? Would you say, God, would you use this and multiply it in exponential ways? Would you say, God, we're writing a number down that doesn't make sense. We're writing a number down that actually scares me a little bit, that if you don't show up next year, I don't know if we can honor this, but guess what? That's the kind of faith I want to have. Would you pray together? If you're single, if you're by yourself, would you pray and say, Lord, use this, use me to live beyond myself. And then when you're ready, as the band, as we're worshiping, you can come down. We have 3 stations down front. We have 3 or 4 along the back wall as well. This is the only time of the year where we actually physically get up and bring an offering. And we do it intentionally, because this is us giving God our best. And so you'll notice very quickly that the top blank right there is what you plan to give today towards your overall commitment. Or maybe you're going to give it online tomorrow, or maybe you already gave it online. There's a little box for that as well. My family, my wife and I, we actually found, can you believe this? We actually found a check, like a physical paper check. I was shocked, and we just physically wanted to bring it, and so we did, and we gave it at the 9 o'clock service. If you brought your check or cash, that works as well. Then the second box is what you plan to give over 2020. We will add both of those up, which will reflect your overall commitment. And so I want to take a moment. I want to pray for you. And then we're going to worship. And we're going to go after God, believing that more stories like Mac and AJ are what it's all about. So Father God, right now, all across this room, Lord, we are praying and we are believing in faith for this moment. God, the reality is that it was a group of people in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the early 90s that gave to an initiative that would eventually turn into a building where I would give my life to you. And they had no idea of the ripple effect of what it's having now. How could they? They just gave in faith. And Lord, I'm so grateful for everyone who sacrificially gives consistently and has given over and above. And now this is our moment, Lord, to live a life that lives beyond our life. God, I don't know how this works. I think it's a mystery. But I do believe that day where we stand in front of you, you will peel back the curtain of heaven, and we will see just how far of a reach our life really had. So that's what we're doing today, God. That's why we're about to move. That's why we're about to give. And so, Lord, this is our act of worship as we pour it to you. We love you, Father. It's in your name. Amen.